Electric slide into the devil doors of life. Things are changing and it ain't the way I like. On the replay, wish I could get a replay. Don't mean to hold ya, but I wanna do over. Gas up the ship, shoot me a text and let me know when it is time. I wanna get off, I wanna get off. 1 star, would not recommend that we go far from here. I wanna get off, I wanna get off. The world. A music podcast for the culture. Wild Wild Thoughts.
Welcome to Wild Wild Thoughts, man. Not to toot my own horn, but that shit jamming, right? that's a jamming ass song to start with. Not to toot our own horn, but hey, I want to shout out everybody on Instagram. Shout out KP, Kawan Prather, the legend, the man, the myth, the legend. What up, KP? We're gonna have to get you on the show one. Yeah, KP's on. We got to get you on the show one time, KP. He got all the best stories. He got all the best celebrity stories, but he also got just knowledge to drop when it comes to the music industry, when it comes to making music. He's one of the last real music guys. He's a music guy. He's a real A&R. They don't have a lot of those left, y'all. We got people who just look at computers and numbers, but he's a real A&R guy who can listen to music and can really pick a hit. So shout out to KP. We got Robert's Customs. They do a lot of our merchandise. Shout out to y'all. What up, Fredo, Marlon the Aries, Eclectic Hayes, T-Wombe, and we got Aisha G Drums, the dopest drummer, Aisha Gillard, one of the dopest drummers out here in LA. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for watching the show. So man, let's just get into it first. There's a lot of things going on. One of the biggest things going on is we were supposed to play this big festival out here for Juneteenth that's been happening every year for, I want to say, the last maybe between 12 to 15 years. And they canceled it. And the reasons that they canceled it is a bunch of rumors going around, but I've been talking to people behind the scenes, and what it seems like is happening, they trying to gentrify the Leimert Park Festival. For years, it was like kind of like a mom and pop thing. Like Battle Cat would get a stage. Wasn't really a bunch of corporate sponsors. The vendors would be out there, like, you know, the real Leimert Park vendors, like the people who are always out there. The vendors would be out there, and it would be like Battle Cat and like the Kdot people, like the real old school hip hop folks, like the hip hop culture from out here. They would get out there, they would do their thing, and it started growing. And I'm telling you, I've been there almost every year, so I've been watching it grow. And it was going crazy till last year was like the first year they had it where they were having actual headliners, you know, like Jasmine Sullivan and I forgot who else it was last year, but it was like some big headline, and I was like, oh, it's changing. Because before that, the headliners would be guys who were like big in the neighborhood at the time, or it would be guys who like, oh, these were the guys who started Freestyle Fellowship. You know, it would be like real people who were like the heart of Leimert Park and the Leimert Park sound and Leimert Park music. So those people are starting to get edged out and pushed out, and it's moving towards like a more corporate vibe and a corporate feel. And I think after it got canceled, because we just got the announcement today that Kendrick is going to be at the Forum. So everybody that, I think it was like 60,000 people at the Leimert Park last year, and shit got a little out of hand. So those people, I'm quite sure most of them are going to move over to the Kendrick show. So I just kind of want to get y'all thoughts on, like, you know, what y'all see happening and how can we keep the culture involved while still, because of course, you know, when things grow, you're going to need funding, you're going to need corporate funds to help, or, you know, things like that. I get that and I understand that, but what do y'all think you could do to kind of balance that out to where it's like we not totally selling out, we not having artists here who don't belong on this particular Juneteenth show? Like, how do we balance that out, man?
Well, I know it's going to sound exclusionist and racist and shit, but I think that a way is like get an 80-20 policy, just like, you know, when you buy ground beef in the store and shit, you can get less fat and more meat by looking for the 80-20 shit. So I think if you have a policy for real of booking cultural artists for a Black culture event, you know what I'm saying, or at least the sponsorship comes in from either companies that are going to support that, where there's a predominantly Black culture centralized in the whole theme of the show, and have those types of sponsors, versus if Pepsi says, oh no, that's exclusionist, we don't fuck with y'all, then go get whatever the new FUBU is, or you know what I'm saying, or look for sponsors that'll push that and keep it what it is, you know what I'm saying, keep it localized where it's like it's not like you can't do a big level festival like that because you don't have the money for the big sound of the stage and all that in order to have local artists, you know what I'm saying. But I think you just shop for more strategic sponsors, have a policy of what is going to be presented on the show, and that's one way to keep it traditional, is to do that.
Well, I don't think that's racist. That's perfectly fine with me. So
I mean, of course. I mean, I'm just saying though, somebody's going to find a problem with that. But
man, that ain't racist. They got problems with everything we do.
I agree. I agree. I'm just saying that if you want to maintain that, don't turn it over to corporate sponsors that don't support it for what it actually is. Not try to change it. Don't try to say, oh, you can't say that though, because you know what I'm saying, that you know, if you set yourself up to be able to be canceled, then you can be. If you get with sponsors that are automatically on board with what your agenda is and shit, you know what I'm saying, then it's less likely that somebody can write a terse letter to the sponsor and shit and have your mic shut off.
Yeah.
And also I agree with you, V-Ray. I think we have to try to align with people who have the same vision.
Yeah.
I would try to.
I'm sorry. Was I breaking up?
No, you're
good. No, you good.
I was saying for me, I think the best approach would be to try and get Magic Johnson involved.
There it is.
So,
That's what I'm saying, or a Fenty type of corporation, or you know what I'm saying, companies that are steeped in Black culture and came from Black culture and remain there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, we were down there in Leimert Park. We went by Pullen Center the other day, and Sharon was tripping because there was a dude in plaid shorts and a polo shirt walking the dog. She's like, "That he does he? You think he lives around here?" I'm like, "Yeah, he probably does." You know what I'm saying? It's a different kind of.
Yeah, because they built all them new condos around there.
Yeah, exactly. And they built their stadium. So
yeah. So yeah, it is what it is, man. But that's the thing that I think needs to be fought for, to keep it Black. I mean, it's just like that. Just like, you know, I was reading an article where they were gentrifying in DC, and you know how they used to have the go-go music bumping in the neighborhood and stuff like that, and people started trying to get all that stuff shut down at the record store, and I guess it was some famous spot. I don't know if it was a restaurant or whatever. That the part of their whole thing was they have the speakers sitting outside and they bump go-go music and shit, and they were trying to shut that whole thing down. And there was a lot of pushback from that. So I see that creeping into Inglewood and now Leimert Park.
For sure, Inglewood and Leimert Park. Like I remember, I used to live not too far from there, and I saw like 3 white girls at like 1 a.m. just mobbing down Crenshaw. I was like, shit is changing. Yeah. Like when I saw that, I was like they didn't look like they were scared at all. Like they wasn't
dead giveaway.
Right.
Yeah,
dead giveaway.
But also to Pandora, I know Pandora. What's up, Pandora? She actually asked a couple of weeks ago, and I think this kind of goes back to that. She said, should we gatekeep more? Should we gatekeep the culture more? And I think this kind of goes to that, where I say, yes, I think we do need to gatekeep a little more, so things like this won't happen like I said, the original Juneteenth festival, before Juneteenth was a national holiday, when it was Leimert Park celebrating, like we're going to celebrate no matter what. When I say it felt good to be there, it felt good to be like, we knew and felt like this was ours. This was made for us. All the artists were curated for us. Battle Cat will put on the main stage, and then there would probably be like a little stage for local artists, and you just felt like, oh, this is really for us. And I feel like that's kind of, as it's gotten bigger, it's kind of getting away from us a little bit. So I do think this is a point, and this is a place where we should figure out how, if the corporations want to come in, they need to hear our voice. Because I talked to somebody who was on the inside, and they basically said the corporations was basically trying to tell the people who originally put it on, like, no, these are the artists you need to have on. This is, this is the type of people we need to have involved, and these are the people that need to be over it now. So it's basically like a corporate takeover. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, Keela. We're talking about them canceling Juneteenth, and then you see like there's like a faction of the guys who feel like they live there and they put in the work, and the guys who are getting getting favor for the corporations. So they're like battling like, well, we need to get this money in the hood, and they like, if we get this money in the hood, where is it going? Because that shit ain't going to us. So that's been kind of like the battle. So it's like layers and nuances to it, and I just hope we figure it out, man, because bigger ain't always better. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of times people want to make things bigger, but bigger ain't always better. I'd rather they go back to the one stage with Battle Cat and the other small stage for local artists and leave it at that, as opposed to making it, because we already got Taste of Soul.
Yeah.
And I think there's another big one in Inglewood. It's Taste of Soul, and I forgot the other one. They already have two that go on in Inglewood. We don't need another Taste of Soul. Like, let the Juneteenth celebration be what it is. Juneteenth celebration don't need to be blown out like the Taste of Soul with all the big national artists. I think that one should stay like for LA. It should be, even if it's a big artist, it should be big LA artist. If it's a headlining artist, it should be a headlining LA or Long Beach, Leimert, like somebody who's known in our area, because it needs to stay
just
for
to
us.
bring that crowd out.
Yeah, that's my take on it, man. What's anybody got any other thoughts before we move on?
Nothing but Kendrick Lamar should have brought his ass down to Lamar Park.
Right. I bet he probably was going to before they canceled it.
That's probably why he did that. That's probably why he changed it and did what he's doing now.
I feel like he would have. Pandora, she said, I made a post on my IG story about how this is a result of late stage capitalism and the commodification of our history. We ain't never needed corporations to pull up to the park and beat drums, eat and have a good time. There you go. That's it. She wrapped it up in a nice bow. That's exactly what it feels like, and that's exactly what it is. So let me ask you this before we move on, Pandora. How do we combat that, or how do we balance out, knowing that you need to utilize capitalism to maintain this festival, while keeping that spirit of, like you said, when we really you should just pull up to the park, beat drums, go to the Pullum Center, because like they'll be like, Pullum Center will have a stage going inside the community center. People will be performing in there. People will be performing outside, right outside the shoe store. I forgot the name of it. It's Soul Folks. And then they'll have the big stage on the end by Marla Gibbs Vision Theater. And it was perfect. And like I said, the vendors didn't have to, because I think they said the vendors got to pay like $1,000. Vendors wasn't paying $1,000. It was like, get your ass there early and get you a spot.
Get you a spot.
Good. So now
first come, first serve, nigga.
Yeah. So now they say the vendors are basically paying to just make their money back. Like, you paying to try to be out there just to try to make your money back. So I think, there's some tweaks and some things that could and need to happen in order for the Juneteenth festival to be what it was. She said, market to small Black and brown business, allow the community to be the voice. I agree. Like, I think the community should continue to be the head of it, because that's what it was. That's what it was about.
But at the same time, Dame, it's like a catch-22, because if the community is being gentrified, you're also falling victim to the audience of a gentrified community.
Not necessarily, bro. I mean, you can. Well, in my opinion, you can have that vibe where if you're gonna come in, this is what it is. You can't come in changing. If you don't want to be around niggas, drinking out of bottles and shit, and like, saying pants sagging and having a good time, then this is not for you. Steely Dan concert is next week. You know what I mean? But today is what it is. It's a cultural event. to me, it seems like a spot like the Pullum Center, which is a entertainment and performing arts center, could be the center of, you know, organizing it. Like the donors come through the Pullum Center, which is said black and brown, not gentrified new residents. But
no, I understand what you're saying.
you know what I mean. But it seems like somebody like that has a finger on the pulse of the entertainment side of it is a long time black, you know, staple, not necessarily only in the Leimert Park area, but like Pullum's a known entity. You know what I'm saying? That are some entity where it's like a black panel or something like that. That any vendors, I mean not vendors, but any sponsors and shit that wanna ride have to be vetted, not the event be vetted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Like she said they could take their ass to Venice if they have a problem.
Exactly. This is just not the environment for you.
Yeah, and we don't need to make it like we don't need to make it for y'all. Like that ain't what the spirit of the
It
whole
was
shit
never
is
for
anyway.
them. What the fuck
Right.
is for niggas?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, like
so much bass. It hurts my ears or something.
yeah. Can you turn that music down?
Take
Like
your ass home.
you're not even supposed to be here. Yeah,
I can't even
what you
talk
doing
over
over
this
here?
music like it's a winery and joint.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to get into was AI. I don't know if y'all heard, but there was an article that came out where the president of Sony was saying Sony Pictures. Let me be clear. Sony Pictures. The president of Sony Pictures was saying that they're going moving forward, they're going to try to use as much AI as possible to cut costs, basically cut jobs, and just to keep feeding their greedy ass pockets. And they was talking about they was going to try to do it with the next Into the Spider-Verse, where they said it would cut 90% of production costs using AI to generate the stuff. But the director of Across the Spider-Verse pushed back, saying, no, the reason Into the Spider-Verse is so dope and the reason it's like world building is because we have took our time to create all these different styles and these different worlds that AI won't generate that way. And somebody made a good point. They said because AI, even when you generate it, you're not generating original shit. You're generating things based off of copycats of other artists. Like what AI does is take every artist that has been on the internet and they do versions of their art, especially when it comes to the animated stuff. Like there's versions of other artist stuff. So it's basically like the Wild Wild West, but you kind of stealing, especially from a lot of small independent artists. But even more, now you're trying to take, and that's why I think this strike was such a big deal, because they've been trying to combat this AI stuff. Because I know Mark Ruffalo, who played Incredible Hulk, was talking about how, like, he was talking about how, like, yo, we need protections for ourselves as actors, because now they can just, if they had me in the Avengers, they can make 50 Avenger movies without me, because now they have access to my likeness, my voice, and can generate anything they want. That's Mark Ruffalo. So we need protections from that. So that's what the big thing is. So before we talk about the music side of it, let's talk about the film side of it. Do you think that studios will find a way to do it, or do you think actors will stick in solidarity with everybody to be like, we'll shut this whole shit down if y'all try to do it that way? Let's get your thoughts. Go ahead, V-Ray.
I think they're gonna find a way, man. Money talks. They got plenty of it. You know what I mean? And I think the landslide of money will push out people. You know, or I don't know. I think the science will outlive the people that protested in whatever physically or just on paper and stuff like that. As soon, I mean, they're still carving out this AI process, but as soon as they find a way, or they pay enough lobbyists to lobby for being able to copyright AI intellectual property, it's a wrap. And that's coming. I mean,
Oh, you froze.
Oh shit.
We lost V-Ray. But like he said, he feels like they're gonna find a way to try to skirt around it, which I feel like that's what's going to happen too. That they're going to try to figure out a workaround to not have to, because that's always the goal of the corporation. Even going back to what we are talking about with the Juneteenth thing, was the workaround to, you know, try not to pay people correctly, to work around to try to change things. What do you think,
Mhm.
Marsh?
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up. I just recently started working at Paramount, and the past year or so, they've been going through a series of layoffs, and there was an article that was released just a few days ago, where they were talking about the impact of streaming. Again, the company is about to go through another reorganization where they're going to trim the fat. It's interesting in a sense when you listen to some of these executives, they're more concerned about the profit line as opposed to quality, quantity, the quality of the stuff that's being put out there. When you look at, the other labels, not other labels, other studios or whatnot, you know, folks are losing money. And the quickest way for you to quote unquote make a profit, especially if you're able to have technology create stories, is to focus on the writing. So I do think that it's going to have a tremendous impact. Maybe not this year, but I would definitely say within the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to have an immediate impact. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is another strike.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, like Pandora said, she said after the strike, this is probably their response. Like basically trying to show like we got the power, trying to keep people in check and trying to people, you know what I'm saying? And try to let
Hmm.
people know like I'll shut all this shit down and we'll just use AI to do all this. Because I
I mean,
know the cameraman, like all the behind the scenes people will be affected as well. So all the
mhm,
people who are cameramen, the animators, because when you do a movie, the animators, that's like 5 years of work for them. And now
right,
they saying, well, instead of 5 years of work, they're like, we could do AI and have a movie out in 90 days,
right.
which is scary because I honestly think there will be a drop in quality in regards to like the heart of these kind of films. You know what I mean? Like when
Hmm.
you look at like Pixar movies, like there's a heart that goes with people actually being artists and writing and drawing it as opposed to, because you can even tell when you see like photos now that are AI, it feels different than a real photo. No matter how close it is to a real photo, there's a
Mhm.
feeling that's different than a real photo. And I think the same thing will kind of be there when it comes to the art side of it, because now, like I said, you're going to be getting a bunch of copycat and you're going to be
Hmm.
getting a bunch of generated things that aren't authentic to the art. Like imagine if Into the Spider Verse is all generated, it's gonna look like a generic version of itself,
Right.
right? Because what makes Into the Spider Verse so dope is all the different styles that it go through, all the different movements and how liquid and fluid that movie moves. But once you go and you're gonna switch it to AI, it's gonna look like a carbon copy of itself, in my opinion. But
Right.
And it
I
won't
think
be original, and it won't be from the idea in the brain. Like it takes time to come up with some stuff like that, so it won't be original no more.
I mean,
It
I
should
think
have just
yeah,
be AI.
the problem is that and Dane, using your example of Enter the Spider Verse, to me the reason why the Enter the Spider Verse was so monumental, and outside of the fact that it was just a dope story, there was representation in which we grew up knowing that Peter Parker was Spider Man, but now we have Miles Morales, and the story is
yeah,
about Miles Morales. You ask
Hmm.
any kid nowadays, like who's Spider Man, they're more inclined to say Miles Morales is their Spider Man, and I think you had the perfect union of old Spider Man fans, new Spider Man fans, even had women that didn't necessarily pay attention, like oh there's a female Spider Man, so you had like a perfect storm which was able to bring a community, masses of people together, and I think that is what the executives don't necessarily understand that representation, and they're looking at things from a financial aspect where they're thinking that oh well we can just have someone write X, Y, and Z, not understanding how it taps into the core audience. And I think that's the biggest my takeaway. That is the biggest concerns that I have, is that you have these people that are making decisions that don't understand the connection.
Well, and you know what? And even more too, to your point, it's not just the people in front of the camera when you talk about representation. When you talk about representation in regards to the dude who storyboarded the he's a black guy. One of the directors was black. Like a lot of the behind the scenes guy who put together Into the Spider Verse were black, and because of that, they took a bunch of kids from the Pullum Center to do a screening at Into the Spider Verse. You know what I'm saying? Like, and because they did that, and then now you got a whole set of kids who were like, "Ooh, I can do that." You know what I mean? And because one of the main guys who storyboarded and did a lot of the stuff, he was one of John Singleton's main guys. And yeah, and so then he ended up doing a lot and so it's a dope story. So like you said, it won't only quash what we see on on camera, it'll squash a lot of the representation that we're getting behind the scenes, man. And I think that's the important part. And like Pandora said, she thinks it will change the way we as customers connect to the art, because I don't care what nobody say, AI is not the same as a person doing it. No matter how good it is and how close it is, you know what I mean? It's not the same. And sometimes the bottom line, art shouldn't be always. Cause I know a lot of times it's about the bottom line. Like, let's be clear. Like, you want movies that make money, but like y'all already making money. Into the Spider-Verse is crazy in the green. Why would you fuck with the formula? Like, to me, that's why I say it's like it's about being greedy and it's not about the art of it at all. So I don't know how we not necessarily stop it. Like, I think you should be able to integrate AI to make some things easier. Like, maybe if you integrate AI, like, oh, instead of us having to draw all these backgrounds, we can integrate AI to do the backgrounds. But again, we still run into the problem of you're going to be still kind of plagiarizing somebody's work. Even when you do that, it's still going to be plagiarizing somebody's work. So I don't know. It's a tricky situation, and I know when technology comes, you can't fight it. It's here, so you got to figure out how to work with it and how to integrate it. But also at the same time, you don't want the art to suffer, and that brings me to the musical side of it, because I've been playing with a couple of those musical AI apps where you just put in lyrics and the genre. And like when I say I made 1,000 versions of Last Day of School, I made 1,000 versions of my life. I have a punk rock version, I have a rock version, I have a blues version, ragtime version. As good as it is, and when I say some of them are damn good, there's a piece of it that still feels like it's not going to connect the same way because it's not real. It's not all the way real. Like I said, you can feel that thing, and I'm sure that's going to get better. Like it'll probably change soon. But at this point where we are, like I feel like there's that thing where it's like it's not real. It doesn't feel, the soul of making the record is not in the AI part of it. That's how I feel about it. Because like BBL Drizzy, for example, and I'm not trying to be funny, but the BBL Drizzy, the original BBL Drizzy, that's made from one of those AI, joints.
Yeah.
So even though it kind of sounds like a Motown joint, it feels like it, you could tell that it's like not a real joint. You know what I mean? And but I know, like, even on some of like, so I do a lot of stuff for like film and television, like we do cues for like TV shows and stuff. But a lot of those companies now are going to start using AI instead of real musicians to like do that. Like, oh, we need a record that kind of feels like this Beyonce Cowboy Carter. I can just put that into the prompt. I don't have to have you do that now. I don't have to pay you. I can put that into the prompt, and I own 100% of it. I own the whole library. You don't, so I don't have to give you no publishing, no check. So that's going to affect us as artists too, and it's going to happen in more and more places in more and more ways with producing and songwriters and artists who are going to be like, well, I don't need a producer no more. I can just get on and make a prompt. Oh, I want a J. Cole type beat. And you keep pressing that button until you get to the beat you want. So I think it's going to change a whole lot of things, but we have to figure out how to, like I said, how to catch up with the technology, utilize it while still keeping yourself relevant. I mean, because like, us as musicians, we always hear when the drum machine came out, they're like, we never gonna need drummers again. That didn't happen. When the keyboard came out with the horn sounds, we ain't never gonna need horns again. So that's not really how it works, but it's just figuring out how to incorporate the technology with the real artistry. And I know we're at a very, very early stage of it. So everybody's kind of scrambling, trying to figure it out. But we have to figure out how to.
Ugly.
It is, but we have to figure out how to incorporate it where it won't replace us and we could use it as a tool. Like I was saying, like even if I generate something, I could generate something. I'd be like, all right, now the band can replay this thing that we generated and take it another direction and make it its own thing. Like stuff like that. Like just trying to be creative, try to find creative ways to use it and utilize it to our advantage. Like I said, it's here and it ain't going nowhere. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
I can go off on a tangent on this one. I hear everything what you're saying. I agree with you 100%. I think, Dame, you and I may have spoken about this a little bit at an earlier date. I think the problem in all of this is that you have two things. A, the audience don't understand what real musicians and the impact of real musicians are. Um, and the second thing is again going to the ear holders or the gatekeepers, is that you have people in there that are not necessarily fighting for the authenticity of the art.
That's true.
Yeah, authenticity is going to take a back seat, man, because it opens up the earnings gap so much more to not have the overhead of paying these people and having back end deals where a lot of money is paid out and shit like that. If the objective is a better bottom line, this is a fucking cash gasm for large corporations that can afford to do it.
I agree with you 100%, and I think that's the thing that pisses me off more than anything, is that everything is a money grab. It's like if you look at the budgets and stuff in which they were doing the past date, you can kind of say that the budgets that are going into nowadays compared to last days were probably a little bit cheaper, and the amount of money that's being generated is greater, but because they want a bigger piece of the pie, they already have the 360 deals. They want more of the pies. They're already buying artist publishing. It's like, what more? How much more do you want and they need? You want the actual instruments now?
When they are able to have tours for artists without the artists, then it's a wrap. Talk about 360 deal, but the artists ain't even involved in their own tour and shit.
Let me touch on that, and I actually see this happening one day. You remember a few years ago at Coachella that had the hologram Tupac?
Yeah.
Yep.
What happens in the future? Let's say a label decides, like, hey, Drake, we want to buy all your publishing for $1 billion. They buy his publishing.
Well, that's what they've been doing.
Right. It's just a matter of time.
That's what they've been doing. Like
those
not even Drake. I don't. Boy, look, I don't know if you saw ABBA did this. So ABBA did a new album, and then they did a whole show constructed around holograms of themselves, and they did a whole ABBA tour with holograms. They did a whole ABBA tour with holograms. So to this, and to mix it with what Pandora's saying about her conspiracy theory, I was wondering why maybe I think it started about 5 years ago, Mars, when they just started swooping up, buying all these older artists publishing for like crazy money. I think they did that because if they own the publishing and then they could find a way to own the likeness, not only can they do these hologram concerts with their hits, they're going to be able to AI generate new songs, new material with these artists, and because they own their publishing, they won't have to pay them for the new songs and the new music, and now they can do a tour while you still alive, and then when you die with the new music. And because I was like, why do they keep buying up all these old artists, publishing? I think that's what's going on. That's like where it's happening. That's very, very scary, man. It's very scary.
Yeah.
That's nasty.
Nasty work.
One thing I was going to say too before the power went out. That's why I dropped out of the show for a minute. But I think that one of the good things that may come out of the AI on the film side is that just like the big studios became desktop studios, we can crank out pro sound and stuff from a a smaller scale studio, if you will. Then I think that movies that's gonna level the playing field when the software starts to drop into that affordable consumer level price range. That some of these people that are screenwriters or
Every time he try to get his point out,
Man, every time.
the people don't want us to know. The people don't want us to know what he's trying to say. But I do. So I do get his point. I think what he was what he was trying to say basically is, you know how when you had to go to a recording studio with a 2-inch machine and a reel and all of that, it was certain people were priced out. You weren't able to make music unless you had a record deal, unless you had radio play. But then once you were able to have home studios that had just as good of sound quality as recording studios, that changed the game because it gave you the Soldier Boys of the world. You know what I mean? And that changed that. You know what I mean? Lil Jon, yeah, that changed the game musically, right? So what he's saying, I think, to what his point was, when we get to a point where you could do that same thing with the AI generation to make films, things that we couldn't do that probably would cost $1 million to do special effects wise, you can now do at your crib on your desktop. And if y'all will see when the Wild Bunch Stop the World video came out, we kind of utilized AI in that way. Like if you even see when I play the video at the end of this, we did that with AI where we mixed ourselves with AI. So, and that's going to get better. Like when we did it, that was a few months ago. So when we did it, it was really the very, very beginning of video being integrated with AI. And that was like, we were like, oh, with just these little 15, 20-second clips. So I know it's going to get better and better. So like, I think V-Ray's point was once it gets there, like when we was able to make real music at studios at the crib, filmmakers, independent filmmakers will have a better shot at like, oh, I can do visual effects and it's not going to take up my whole entire budget. Or I could even do something where I can't get this location, but if I green screen it, it's not going to look like a green screen because I can generate the location around, like if I don't know if y'all watched The Mandalorian. If y'all watch The Mandalorian, it's crazy because it looks real, right? Like when they're in the desert and all that. But that was shot on this thing called the volume, where it's basically a room that's round, but the whole round part of the room is made of LED screens. And the LED screens, along with what they build on set, creates the environment. So they just basically put like stay in the desert or the snow, they put it on all those screens and shoot in the environment. So when you watch it on the screen, it looks like they're really in the place that they are. But I feel like the way AI is going, you might be able to do that at your crib with a green screen studio in your house. You know what I'm saying? So so that's why I was saying, like, we can't fight it. So you just got to figure out ways that we can use it to our advantage and try to jump ahead of the curve and use it to our advantage while everybody fighting it. Remember they said CDs was coming and records was going, music is dead. Like there's always something in technology, but the guys who jump ahead of it first and figure it out are the ones who win. So I'm just telling my creators out there, instead of fighting it and being mad, try to find a way to jump ahead of it and create.
Yeah. That's what I was saying, bro. Y'all capitalize it perfectly. I think the motherfuckers from Sony is like trying to jack my shit over here, keep me from saying my piece.
Yeah. Everything like, cut
him. He's saying too much.
So if y'all find my car run off a hill, I'm not depressed.
Right. Sony heard this.
You got that, Sony, you bitch.
They treating you like Delilah.
Right.
And then finally, not finally, Mars. So Bad Boys 4 is coming out this weekend. I know I want to see it. I really like 3. Everybody is talking about though the press run that's been happening because a lot of people say Martin seems a little off. Martin doesn't seem like he's all there.
Man, he was drunk.
I don't think so. If there's something going on medically, I pray for him. You know what I'm saying? And I don't ever want to make fun of him because I remember everybody making fun of Chadwick Boseman and nobody knew he had cancer and then my man died. So I don't want to make fun of nobody's health issues or situations. But I think people forget Martin had a couple strokes back in the day.
He had a bad one 2 years ago.
Yeah, he had a bad, but remember he had a stroke years ago, and because of that, he's more susceptible. But he had a bad stroke, and he had also in this time after the stroke, he lost his best friend. So I know he's been like, grieving that. I don't know if y'all remember his name. He played Nipsey on Martin, but he
Yeah,
passed recently,
yeah.
and that was Martin's best
Mm-hmm.
friend. So no, he wasn't drunk. Martin has been sick, and it's been dope kind of too. I know everybody been giving Will Smith shit, but it's been dope to watch the way that Will Smith been trying to help carry him through the interviews, and Will Smith been, I think, even trying to help carry him through the films as of late. But just for everybody who's been out there, like, oh, I think he owns some shit. Like, no, Martin been sick, man. And when you have a stroke, I mean, I think he's really, the crazy thing is he's in really good shape for the size of a stroke he had a couple years ago. Like, you know what I mean? To even be able to do what he does, it's a blessing. But I think, we got to be careful how we talk about people and their health issues, especially when we didn't know. Like I said, I always point to how people was making fun of Chadwick Boseman when he got skinny. And I remember when that was happening, I was like, nah, man, something don't look right with dude.
Right.
Yeah, like I was like, something wrong. Like, how can y'all not see that something's wrong? You know what I mean? So I do not joke about stuff that look like it could be health related stuff. So, shout out to Martin for even pushing through and doing everything he's doing and been dealing with. Now, Will Smith has said, in his opinion, 4 is the best of the whole series. I'm curious to see why he thinks 4 is the best one. And it's tough, I think, to say that when you got 1 and 2 as the classics that they are. What's y'all thoughts?
It's hard for me to really gauge because a lot of the reviews, early reviews, the presses and whatnot, everyone is hyping, this movie up. To me, the first one is always going to be the classic because we got to see Marty Moore, we got to see Martin Lawrence at his best. I think people are definitely gonna go out there because of curiosity, because of the hype and everything. But at the same time, I don't necessarily know if I can see it being the best. And my approach to it is to go in with no expectations, but knowing that hearing that the action sequence are top notch and rivaling the Fast series. That might be enough to me. It's like, okay, cool. We don't necessarily have to worry about the acting per se, but if the action is there, then you have something.
Yeah, the stories.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you when you say like, yeah, I would say not only is story going to be critical, but also like you said, to me, I don't know how you top having Martin and Will at their peak in the first 2 movies, because I think that one of the things that made it special was this was like the first time you were getting the 2 biggest black dudes on TV to do a movie together. So even culturally, it was a little different. It was a little more special at the time. So, we have those feelings attached to it. And then they were both, 1 and 2 were really damn good movies that gave us a lot of classic moments. And then there's an 18-year gap between 2 and 3. You know what I mean? So now you get the older version. Like I said, I think they did a great job with 3, paying homage to 1 and 2. I think they did a great job with 3, but I don't know if I feel like it's a classic like 1 or 2. You know what I mean? Like 3 was a great addition. It was a great, you know what I'm saying? It was a great addition, but I don't know if it was a classic like 1 and 2. But I hope maybe they figure something out where, will be, maybe it's 1, 2, 4, 3 is gonna be the order, is what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I think every junket, every person says this is the best I've ever, whatever it is. Like when people say they've got a new album coming out, it's the best album I've done. I really, went deep and all that shit like that. So you really got to take that with a grain of salt when you hear that, and especially coming out of the mouth of the person that's in the movie and not a critic or somebody that has no investment in it. But I just think it'll be good, good cinema. I just hope the story goes in a different direction, because the premise of them two and how they are friends that don't get along, and what I'm saying, they have their different vibes for how they approach policing and shit like that. All that's established now. You know what I mean? So it's got to go some other direction. To me, anyway, to really go, okay, they went and did their homework. Are they really, went the extra mile to try to do something different with the story, where there's still cops and all that, obviously, but and the action that you mentioned is at its peak. But to me, the story, if you're gonna make 4 of these joints, you know, there can't be a rehash of the same shit. The angry captain is always, you know, coming out to the scene yelling at him and shit like that. That's cool, but that's been done. And I'm hoping for something different. I'm gonna enjoy it, I'm sure, either way it goes. But I just, you know, from a filmmaker standpoint, I'd like to see something,
Yeah,
foundation for it to be part of the franchise.
Bad Boys 1 or Beverly Hills Cop 1?
ooh,
Mm.
ooh,
That's hard right there, bro.
that's tough, yo.
Yeah.
That's tough. That because you know why it's tough too? Because I feel like without Beverly Hills Cop, you don't have Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Like
would
I
want
feel
to
like
decide between them.
I feel like a lot of the DNA of Bad Boys is from Beverly Hills Cop. You know what I mean? That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, man. Because
Yeah,
Eddie
that's
has so
tough.
many classics. Eddie has so many classic moments in Beverly Hills Cop too, man.
Yeah.
Like
Don't put a banana in my tailpipe.
yeah, banana my tailpipe and the captain fucking
Yeah.
Foley.
Yeah.
You know?
every the staple of every cop movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Captain
But
Foley.
then how square the what's his name? The 2 cops, the Beverly Hill cops, were compared to
Yeah, Billy and
oh boy,
Taggart.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a cool contrast too. And oh boy, just employing game, you know, in Beverly Hills. I thought that whole thing was cool as hell. But Bad Boys was a beater too, man, when it first came out. So
That's why I said, hey, that's a tough one. Listen, I'll say it like this: if somebody was that Beverly Hills Cop is it, I'm not mad. If somebody's take is that Bad Boys is it, I'm not mad. You know how sometimes you hear take like, yo, that's ridiculous. I can't say that for either one in this case because Bad Boy was such a banger. And like I said, and what Bad Boys meant culturally, because I think another thing about what Bad Boys did culturally that Beverly Hills Cop didn't do, Bad Boys was culturally our Beverly Hills Cop because it was kind of more hip hop laced.
Yeah.
Like it was our slang, it was our language. They was wearing jerseys. Oh damn, why she do that?
Yeah.
She said lethal weapon in there. Hell yeah. Like, okay, so
Lethal Weapon was good, but we're talking a whole different kind of movie than the Beverly Hills Cop and Bad Boys kind of shit to me. Now, what would be
That's a
dope?
whole different series. Yeah.
Here's
like
a dope
tempo.
idea, and I'll say this into my stapler so Sony can hear me and shit. But to combine the Axel Foley and
Bad Boys crossover.
That would
be insane.
That would be
That
crazy.
would be insane. You know what's crazy? I'm gonna tell you what's crazy, Ray. I literally had that thought yesterday.
Really?
Because I was watching one of the press junkets, and Will was talking about how, not Will, Martin was talking about how originally he wanted Eddie to play the part of Mike Lawless.
That's crazy.
But I couldn't afford Eddie at the time, and my sister said you need to do this with Will. And I was like, I said it would have been a totally different movie with Eddie because one, I think what made Bad Boys dope was they were both right here as stars. They were both kind of in the exact same place, so it worked. Where it's like they were literally co-stars. I think Eddie Murphy would have made Martin the co-star, especially at that time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And so I think it would have changed the dynamic even of the two guys, the dynamic. But if now where they're established and there's like, you know, Bad Boys come to Beverly Hills, that would
be crazy. That would be crazy.
Yeah,
I'm
watching that.
Insane.
If you're listening, Sony, and I know you are, do that.
yeah, that would be a crazy idea.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, before we get out of here, finally, Deontay Wilder, man, who was known, he was supposed to be the guy to bring heavyweight boxing back. I know everybody ain't in the sports, but he was that guy for a hot second. He just got beat up by Yao Ming chubby cousin. He's got put up in a blender by Yao Ming chubby cousin was laying hands on.
Do y'all think
He turned around and looked at the ref
Boom.
like, "Are we still fighting?"
Are we here still? What's going
When
on?
was the
Turn
fight?
around
I
like-
didn't even know. I didn't even know they had a fight. He had a fight coming up. Was it this past
It was
weekend?
this weekend.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
this past weekend.
I'll have to get it on.
It was
on
it
demand.
was bad. They put that dude in the mix. So my question to y'all is, after watching how he got knocked out and handled, because he was getting handled the whole fight, is it over?
It's over.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought
Hang
it was
up,
over
dog.
after he got beat.
You turned around,
2
my
times
nigga.
by old boy, the dude who just lost his title. What's the old boy with the dad bod?
Fury.
Huh? Fury, yeah,
Fury.
Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
Who
Tyson
just
Fury,
lost.
yeah.
He lost the belts. I think the weekend before last. He's not the champion anymore. But after he like Willie saying that glass jaw got exposed, it seems like once the fighters that seem invincible get that dent in their armor, sometimes they come back stronger, and sometimes they're just never the same again. So I thought after Fury got him the second time, it was over because there was a bad look in that fight.
Yeah, but
So
he
getting knocked out by Yao Ming's chubby cousin.
Yeah,
That's horrible.
the problem with Wilder is that he's not committed to training. He likes to do all that unorthodox stuff, and it's not traditional boxing. Like he likes
to this day.
He thinks he can go in and brawl, and that'll be it. He has no technique, no footwork.
Yeah, no, that's true. I agree with that. Yeah, he's more of a power puncher that's looking for that one. One
good hit,
hard punch to set up a knockout. If not, knock the person out. You're right. He doesn't have good ring generalship at all. But some heavyweights are like that though. They just heavy-handed ass, people that just want to come in and fight.
Yeah, but that's because, in my opinion, looking at the heavyweights and whatnot, like them motherfuckers. Excuse my language. They don't really train and practice on their footwork. Like when you look at Mike Tyson and stuff in which he used to do, and how he trained, and how he was meticulous in everything in which he was doing with his footwork. He had to make sure that the combinations were crisp or the combinations were lining up with it. You don't see fighters doing that. You see like middleweights, featherweights, and whatnot doing that. Like Mike Tyson was a middle featherweight in a heavyweight body.
He was also a student of the game, though, too. If you hear him talk about boxing, that's the other thing. Very learned,
yeah, that's the other thing. And like, do you even have trainers like Custom Model now? Do you have trainers like Emmanuel Stewart? Like, do you have trainers of that echelon now? Because it doesn't seem that way. And like you said, V-Ray, like somebody should have fixed Deontay Wilder's boxing a long time ago. Like the boxing part, you know what I mean? But they just like, he knocking motherfuckers out. So let's go. All right, so we got a couple more minutes. One, if y'all are in LA and y'all want to see Wild Bunch, Saturday night, we're gonna be at Mingle and Play in Pasadena. Mingle and Play in Pasadena at the Mix. So come Saturday night, it's like an adult game night. They got big ass Jenga, big ass Uno. They got a whole bunch of games on every table. They got domino tables and all that. And we'll be performing. We're gonna be doing Wild Bunch. We'll be doing what is it called? Musical bingo. So bingo cards will be based on the songs that we're playing on stage, and then some of the songs that the DJ will play. So I think that's gonna be fun. So come check us out. We hit our first set at 10 o'clock. And after that, we'll be back up at midnight. So come check us out. And then Sunday, we will be back with the guys at TG3. So we're gonna be, let me make sure I get it right.
That's a Sofitel, right?
Yes. No. We back at this Sunday is Sofitel?
I think so, yeah.
I think so, yeah. I think yeah.
Let me double check.
I think that's this Sunday. No?
Oh, okay. I don't. All right. So go to our Instagram. I just want to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
So and then real quick, do you remember this for you, Rob? Do you remember a guy named I can't get it. Hold on. I'll talk to you off the air about it. I'll talk to you about it off the air. But yeah, so Wild Bunch will be playing Saturday and Sunday. Check all our social media. And y'all, we need some videos for the Walk It Back Challenge. We need some entries to win this Amazon TV. We trying to give away a TV. So make your video post it on your Instagram and tag us. All right, and we'll enter your ass like that.
Hey.
Make the video, post it, and tag us.
Hey, you,
ahead,
you were
T-Ray.
right. It was LaJardan on Sunday, not Sophie
Okay,
Taylor.
yeah. Yeah, so
Oh,
LaJardan,
okay.
the Sunset, otherwise
That's
known
all.
as the Sunset Room, used to be
Yeah.
the Ivar back in the day. Give them the address, V-Ray.
I think it's 1460 Cahuenga Boulevard.
There you go, 1460 Coinga Boulevard, all the way in the back. All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, check us out. It's gonna be good times. Grown and Sexy both nights. Saturday night at Pasadena, Grown and Sexy. Ain't no none of that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Sunday,
Mhm.
for sure, Grown and Sexy in that joint. It's
Mhm.
always a good time. Whenever we do something with TG3, it always go up. Whenever we do something with Mingle and
Mhm.
Play, I love those two brands. I love doing shows with Mingle and Play. Shout out to Cheryl. I love doing shows with TG3. Shout out to Quee. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Brad Rush. Y'all know these two, between these two, they basically run the nightlife in LA if you want to have a good, grown, and sexy time.
Yeah.
All right, so check
feel
us
that.
out. That's what we'll be. Make y'all walk it back videos and tell people, make their videos and send them, man. Y'all hit people in their DMs because we trying to give away this TV. So make the walk it back video, post it on your Instagram, and tag Wild Bunch or any member, and we'll make it happen and we'll put y'all on our page. All right. Until next time, man. Thank everybody for joining us. We appreciate y'all watching Wild Wild Thoughts for the culture, about the culture. We will see y'all next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Stop the world, let me off. I don't like this destination. I like a transfer to the express line. I gotta get off. Electric slide into the double doors of life. Things are changing and it ain't the way I like.